Team coverage tonight from the scene of the protests, and we start with Eyewitness News reporter Joe Bruno. Joe.
And I need to take a look back at us. Police are moving back right now. The crowd is continuing to move forward. As you can see, there are more than 100 people on the streets right now. About 20 police officers in riot gear. You can see they're completely covered in their tactical gear. This protest has been happening now for more than an hour. People taking to the street of Old Concord Road. A man just threw a water bottle at a police officer. It went right off of his mask. You can see that the crowd is pushing us down Old Concord Road right now. All this happening within the last 5 minutes. At the core of this protest, as another water bottle flings in our direction, police say the man they shot and killed today was armed with a weapon. Family and friends protest now, saying that the man was only armed with a book. Officers went to the Village at College Downs apartment complex to serve outstanding warrants on a suspect. But before they were able to do so, officers say they were confronted by a different man in a vehicle. Police say the man had a weapon when he got out of the vehicle.
One of the officers felt a lethal threat and fired his weapon because of that.
But that account is heavily disputed by family members. The daughter of the man killed recorded this Facebook Live seen by thousands. Family members say the man is a father of 7 and was waiting for his son to get home from school when detectives ordered him out of the vehicle. Family says he was reading at the time.
They said, hands up, he got a gun, he got a gun. Pow, 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 pow.
It wasn't no gun, it was a book.
Chief Putney says a weapon was recovered at the scene. Right now, they are investigating to see if the man killed knew the suspect they were searching for. The officer who fired the shots is on paid administrative leave during the investigation, which is standard procedure in officer-involved shootings. And we are continuing to move down Old Concord Road right now. Protesters are pushing the heads up, Calvin, heads up. Caught a water bottle. We are moving down Old Concord Road right now. As you can see, the protesters are flinging water bottles toward police, toward us. We're going to have to toss it back.
We go to reporter Joe Bruno, who said at one point he did see at least one canister of tear gas used. Joe, where are you and what can you see?
We're in South End right now off Coldwell Street, and what we're seeing is this peaceful protest start to escalate. Protesters took to I-277 about 15 minutes ago. As soon as protesters shut down the interstate, we saw police in riot gear run onto the interstate. They quickly formed a line, and if they thought that the protesters weren't moving fast enough, they started moving them by walking towards them. As people rioted on I-85,
Lord, please forgive me.
terrified truck drivers were trapped.
Because I don't know what's going to happen.
As people looted, destroyed, and burned their cargo.
That fear I seen, I never want to see again.
Connie Love and her husband were transporting car parts to Greensboro when protesters shut down the highway. She called me as people got on the back of their trailer, stole their cargo, and put their lives in danger.
One guy that walked by, just the look in his eyes, like he didn't care if he killed somebody.
Hours before the looting, a CMPD officer shot and killed Keith Scott. Protests quickly turned into riots, spilling from the shooting scene to the interstate.
I know they consider an innocent life was taken, maybe so, but these truckers and people just passing through, they're innocent lives too. They don't deserve to have stuff like that done to them.
All Love and her husband could do was lock their doors. She says they were defenseless as they witnessed the destruction. The pain and fear of last week's riots still haunt Love. But despite the horrifying moments, she says she will forgive the people she thought were going to harm her.
I'd ask them why they felt like they had to prey on the truck drivers.
Because the protesters took away more than her cargo.
I'll forgive them, but I'll never forget.
They also took her peace of mind.
This man is accused of looting at the epicenter during last week's unrest. But a Channel 9 investigation uncovered he went back to protect the business as a security guard the next day.
Eyewitness News reporter Joe Bruno dug deeper into his criminal past and asked how he got the job.
When I was walking around with protesters last week, it was easy to tell there was an increased security presence at the epicenter. Today I learned one of the security guards hired was an armed felon, and he's accused of looting from one of the bars he was supposed to protect.
The protesters went that way.
Marcus Williams let everyone know on Facebook that he was armed and working security at the epicenter last Thursday during the protests.
I got my glizzy on me. I got a big 4.5 with them hollow tips. Anybody knocking me out?
24 hours earlier, police say Williams was one of the people at the epicenter looting. Now he's arrested, accused of taking $200 from the candy bar. Channel 9 dug deeper into his past. We've learned he's a felon, convicted of armed robbery in 2012. He's also not a registered security guard in Mecklenburg County. I learned Bar Management Group hires security for some restaurants in the epicenter, and that company contracted Carolina Advanced Protection Service last week. That's the company that hired Williams. Its listed address is this boxing gym in South Charlotte. The owner wouldn't comment, but says Williams was hired as a fill-in and he didn't undergo a background check. Security experts say this is becoming too common.
As more businesses hire private security, they're always looking to do it the cheapest way.
Now both groups could be facing penalties because the security firm Williams was working for isn't registered with Private Protective Services or the Secretary of State.
They can be arrested, they can be summoned to court, and they can be fined.
And I reached out to the epicenter and Bar Management Group multiple times, but representatives did not return my phone calls or messages.
These are waves just pounding the air. These are big ones, too. This is the pier in Folly Beach. Eyewitness News reporter Joe Bruno begins our team coverage. He is live there now, and Joe, it looks miserable, and you lost power overnight, is that right?
Yeah, we certainly had an evening. Moments after our 11 p.m. live shot, we broke down. We head to the motel, power goes out. Of course, later the roofs start to leak, the ceilings start to leak. And if I have one bar of cell phone service at this point, I will treasure it with all of my heart. But here's a look at the conditions right now. You can see the tide is slowly getting closer. It's a little far out right now, but at moments, it came right up to the steps that I'm standing on right now. 1 a.m. was high tide. That was when we had major concerns about our equipment back there because we weren't sure how much closer this tide would get. But the big concern right now is the storm surge. We're expecting it could be anywhere from 4 to 8 feet. And when I talk about the storm surge, I'm talking about the center of the hurricane. As pressure drops, the water begins to build up. And then when Matthew approaches Folly Beach and the coastal South Carolina towns, it just wham, pushes all of that water, and that's the water that's going to cause the massive destruction.
News reporter Joe Bruno, he continues our team coverage this half hour live in Folly Beach. Joe, it seems like conditions have gotten even worse where you are.
Yeah, and we're expecting them to continue to get worse for the next couple hours. The National Weather Service says the winds could reach 90 to 100 miles per hour. Now we're expecting these winds to be probably around the 60 to 70 miles per hour range. Getting a nice mouthful of sand here. The winds are pushing the sand and the water toward me. Ocean right now, it's low tide, but the tide is still coming toward us pretty steadily. We can see the pier now that the sun is up. The pier doesn't seem to have suffered too much damage throughout the night. It was built in 1995 after Hurricane Hugo. Of course, Hurricane Hugo brought massive damage to the area when it struck in 1989. Now we're back on the deck right now. One thing that's unusual, it's the first time this is happening, the pool water is being blown this way as well. So now we're getting a nice little mixture of chlorine in with our sand and salt water, but the wind is still going very strong. These are exactly the kind of conditions where first responders say they can't help anyone. The sand and water is still smacking right into my face as my hat goes flying into the Atlantic Ocean. The streets of Folly Beach right now, just look at how deep this water is, coming all the way up to my ankle, and you have to remember I'm about 6 feet tall, so that's pretty deep. Neighbors were concerned about traffic issues before this school opened, and already we are seeing them here on the first day of school. Now, Odell Elementary is a brand new school. This is for 3rd through 5th graders in the Cabarrus County School District. We're up here in Chopper 9 tracking all of these different traffic issues for your back-to-school commute. Park, it's a mess. We're watching cars one by one now being rerouted on this detour, but look at this as we zoom out here. Just look at all of these cars waiting to be rerouted down that detour. The outbound lanes of East Independence Boulevard, of course, are closed right now when you're heading toward Matthews because of this water main break. And look, we're still zooming out, and you can see all of those cars that are waiting to get through that one lane of traffic. And look, if you take a look to the right-hand side of your screen, you can see even more cars once you finally do get rerouted. Look at that steady line of cars that's trying to make it through here. Now, all of this is happening near East Mecklenburg High School. Happy first day of class to them. The bags are packed and ready to grab. The important documents are already tucked away.
Some important papers are in there for the baby, and all we do is just throw it and go.
Patricia Green drove to Enola to help her friends who are currently flying home from Kuwait. When they return, they'll find their valuables in containers and a growing fire in their backyard.
That's literally all you can do, is just pray.
This fire is approaching homes rapidly. I'm not standing too far away from that home, and using my cell phone, I could show you just how close this fire line is. As firefighters battle more than 5,800 burning acres, volunteers at command make sure they have everything they'll need. The community has overwhelmed departments with donations, including handmade cards.
Thank you for being here.
Firefighters receive one each day with their lunch.
We're spending our Thanksgiving with our fire family instead of our family back home. So things like this really impact.
The cards and donations help motivate first responders bravely fighting the flames. Their presence helps calm people like Green, even as she prepares for the worst.
I know they're working around the clock, so all we can do is hope.
Behind these hills.
Ransom Carswell hasn't felt this much smoke in his lungs since he gave up smoking 30 years ago. Now his home of more than 6 decades is at risk because of a wildfire that is currently destroying more than 6,300 acres.
If it gets on it, it'll come, and that wind gets 40, 50 mile an hour, it'll push it on through you.
Officials aren't optimistic about this weekend because of the forecasted wind speeds.
Today's the first day I felt like I could leave and go back to work.
Phil Church built his home 4 years ago and has spent the past week trying to protect it. At times, the fire line was less than a football field away from his house. He's doing everything he can to make sure his family is ready if it returns. The fear is an ember will jump across this creek and land on this side, but by using these sprinklers, the chances are reduced that this house or the surrounding area will catch fire.
I'm just hoping that the wind doesn't get as bad as they predict that it will.
He and his family were told to evacuate earlier this week. Even with the projected wind pickup, he's sticking around, but he says he's not stubborn.
Oh, if it's bad, I'm gone. Nothing's worth dying for. You do everything you can, and when you can't do anymore, that's when you leave.